Hi everyone. I wanted to just introduce you to this concept of the flipped classroom, maybe give you some examples that might make it helpful to you to view what that concept even is, maybe a little bit differently than what you were even thinking when you signed up for the course, or maybe what you've read about it or researched about it in the past. But just let me give you a couple scenarios here. So allow me to give you what I consider to be the perfect storm for integrating what is considered a traditional flipped classroom concept. And there are multiple ways to flip a classroom, but the traditional sense here. Back when I was teaching high school, at my alma mater, actually I went to high school there as well, taught there then for 20 years. That particular school district was very unique. The geographic landscape is larger than Rhode Island or Delaware. It had a square footage of over 2,200 square miles in that school district. Now, a large portion of it included the mountain wilderness of the High Sierras, where no one lives full time, but that was part of the district. So we had some students that rode the school bus for over an hour in each direction, and an average bus ride of about 25 minutes. In fact, when I was a freshman, um, starting at that school, my bus ride was just over an hour to get to school each way. Um, and that's over winding mountain roads and so on. Taking that scenario when I was teaching there, that represents a major amount of time for students each day. And so rather than them scroll, if they had service, scrolling through TikTok or Snapchat or Instagram posts or whatever they're scrolling through on their way to and from school, they could be watching a lesson video to prepare for the discussion in class the next day. And it certainly wouldn't take all of that time period, but it would take part of that. And in order to provide more time then for class sessions to be more engaging, it would put learning much more in their own hands, pun intended there. While they're in class, they could have access to their lessons and their lectures um, on their phones while on the bus. Then when they're in class, they would have access to their teacher as an expert in the subject area, their peers as fellow learners, tutors even, to interact with in so many ways and combinations of hands-on, experimental, discovery-based, interactive learning opportunities, which could include direct instruction or traditional homework assignments even. And so if we can catch our students to where they just have a little bit of downtime in their day, and I think it's crazy that even high schoolers and junior hires and so on are just so busy in their day that we have to squeeze in a whatever 15 to 20 minute lesson, or 10 minutes even. But in order for that to fit into their day somewhere, it could be on a device that they carry in their hand, and they can watch it whenever they have a break to be able to focus on it and be ready for the lesson the next day. That's the concept to a traditional flipped classroom, and where maybe some of our students could find that time to be prepared for school the next day. But what if you don't teach in this perfect storm school district? What if you teach in a large city where most of the students just walk a few blocks to campus? Or what if you're at a school where most of the kids' parents drive them to school? Or what if the situation is somewhere in between all of these? Is there a place for the flipped classroom in your situation? And of course, there's always the question of students having differing levels of access to the technology for the video component of a flipped classroom. Or is a video component required for a flipped classroom? And what about the parents buying into this approach? Or how did the whole COVID-19 pandemic shutdown affect the way that you taught your classes and the way your students learned or didn't learn? And how did that change your knowledge of, your experience with technology within your teaching, the whole COVID thing? Let's see if we can answer some of those questions as we progress with this course. Since you've all read the textbook, Flip Your Classroom, Reach Every Student in Every Class, Every Day, by John Bergman and Aaron Sams, right? We've all read that, right? Let's take a look at a couple of videos now, including one of them from our authors that have posted over on the overall topic. Again, just to familiarize ourselves a little bit more with this topic. And remember, as you look at some of these videos on sites like YouTube, there are always other videos that come up on the right side of the page that might be worth some extra time on your part to investigate, entirely up to you, of course. But we'll also talk about how to get rid of those if they're a distraction for your students when they're watching your videos, if you choose to post them on a site like that, who might then spend 2 hours watching kitten videos or something that they get distracted with, right? We all do, instead of them watching your video. So we're going to talk about how to get rid of those showing up in a tool like YouTube and go from there. Oh, and just so that some of you are not under the impression that the flipped model is only for secondary teachers, I just want to let you know that I've had a teacher take this course who is flipping her first grade class, another one flipping her second grade classroom, another that flipped part of her kindergarten class, and several other elementary teachers who will be making their classes blended, which is a part-time flipped, and we'll get to defining that more and better later. And I also want to emphasize that there are other ways of flipping your classroom than always having your students watch a video. And again, that's a subject that we'll get into later in the course.